Slice, slice, and slice once more. A cautionary Halloween tale with regard to emotional thinking and the narcissist. It was early evening on Halloween, and darkness lay across the land, obscuring and shrouding like the worst effects of emotional thinking. Lying on her bed, listening to the low moan of the wind, was Emma Parth, and she was down at heart. She lay on the bed, idly stroking her black cat, Thrudgo. Her cat was relishing the steady rhythm of her hand, and let out several contented purrs. "Oh, Thrudgo, what am I ever to do?" lamented Em. But Thrudgo was barely listening, as he was dreaming of slinking out into the gathering night and hunting down a mouse to toy with. "I remembered this time last year, when I had that fantastic Halloween party with Michael, and I was dressed in a catsuit. I cannot believe that was a year ago. We were so happy then. Everything was wonderful, exciting, and then, gone, in the blink of an eye, he just changed. Gone was the man that I had fallen in love with, replaced by a stranger, someone who ignored me, someone who destroyed the love that we once had. I gave him my heart, and he tore it into little pieces. I still miss him. I really do," she declared, and began to sob. Thrudgo rolled over because Emma had stopped stroking him, and he was most displeased. Firstly, because Emma was no longer giving the attention he merited, and secondly, because she had not trotted out this tale of woe for some 5 months, a fact which hitherto had pleased Thrudgo. He had had to endure weeks of Emma lamenting the demise of her relationship to Michael. The same tortured questions, the "why did this happen?" and the "what did he mean when he said this?" and the "how could this all fall apart?" and the "did he mean anything that he ever said?" and "how could it be fixed?" On and on and on. Thrudgo was delighted when this circular lament had ended, and she said nothing more about Michael the missing. "I can see us both now," continued Em, as she reminisced about the Halloween party, dancing in the moonlight to our favourite song. "I was so happy, and that was just a year ago. Just 1 year." "I wonder where he is now?" asked Em to Thrudgo, but he was a cat, so he said nothing in return. "I wonder if he is still with her," muttered Em, as her memory seized upon her replacement. The replacement was the not-so-attractive Dawn Grade, who had apparently secured Michael's affections. "Why on earth did he go off with her, when he was so happy with me? I just still cannot grasp what she has that I have not," declared Em. And so Em embarked on a speech which she had not aired for many months, as she recounted the various misdemeanours, spiteful acts, hurtful behaviours, and downright rotten treatment doled out by Michael. And as she talked to herself, she failed to hear the sound of the first slice being made. Thrudgo stood up on the bed and decided to exit, for he had heard this speech many times before, and he knew where it was going. He had other matters to attend to, because as a cat he was self-centred and only interested in 3 things: who was feeding him, who was stroking him, and how many mice he could torment. Everything else was piffle. Accordingly, Thrudgo stretched, rolled his eyes, yawned, and slunk out of the room, leaving Em to her soliloquy of solitude. She recounted the beginning of the relationship, of how she and Michael had met, the tantalizing courtship, and the mesmeric seduction. Her voice drowned out the sound of something being sharpened, something thin and slender and very sharp. She continued as she remembered day by day, moment by moment, the wonderful and the woeful of the relationship, the delight and the disdain, the magic and the misery, as she reeled off each event, each occurrence, and each happening. As she talked to herself, a cavalcade of images formed in her mind as she pictured her and Michael. She revisited old haunts, walked through the memories, and breathed life into the rotting corpse that represented Michael and Emma. She felt very sad. Upset, and since she was hurting, she said, "I know," through her sobs, "I will call Miranda. She will make me feel better." As Emma picked up her mobile phone and pressed the button to ring her uninformed but well-intentioned friend, Miranda, she failed to hear the sound of the second slice being made. "Hi, Em, how are you?" asked Miranda, her earnest, empathic tones sounding down the telephone line. "Not so good. You see, it's Halloween, and it reminds me of being with Michael a year ago, and all the memories have come flooding back. It makes me miss him so much. I thought I was over him, but I don't know. It just all feels so raw," she explained, and then let out another sob of hurt. "Oh, my love," soothed Miranda. I know, it never really goes away, does it? The bastard! How could he do that to you? You were the perfect couple. I still cannot get my head around what changed with him. He seemed so right for you." "He was. He is. Oh, Miranda, it was just 1 year ago we had that party at the house. Do you remember?" asked Em. And Miranda did remember, and so she talked freely with Em as she took that poker and stoked the embers of the past and caused the almost dead flames to rekindle and spark and burst into life once again. She facilitated her friend, talking on and on about the man who now left her upset, hurt, and in pain. She did so because she knew nothing of the curse of narcissism, and bereft of this knowledge, rather than snuff out any and all talk of Michael, rather than distract her friend by changing the subject or visiting her to take her out somewhere, she allowed her to engage in a lengthy diatribe about Michael, because, well-intentioned but uninformed, she thought this would help. So the pair talked and talked as 1 hour became 2, and all they talked about was Michael, Michael the magnificent, Michael the miserable, Michael the manipulator, Michael the mad, Michael the moody, Michael the mesmerizer, and Michael the missing. Neither Em nor Miranda could hear the sharpening sound that was obvious, because their chitter-chatter drowned it out. Eventually, after 2.5 hours of Michael this and Michael that, Miranda explained she had to go as she was attending the Halloween ball at Tudor Towers, and thus the call ended. "I feel a little better for talking to Miranda. She's such a good friend," commented Em. "And that has made me feel like I can look at Michael's Facebook page. I think I'm over the worst now, so I may as well find out what he's been doing, because you need to know your enemy after all, don't you?" As she hummed a ditty to herself and opened her laptop to go to her Facebook page and search for Michael, she failed to hear the sound of the third slice. Em looked at Michael's Facebook page, and when she'd last looked some months earlier, she had seen the bulletin broadcast of how wonderful Dawn Grade was, and the timeline festooned with pictures of the pair of them grinning like President Trump in a locker room. But no more. There were no pictures of the two of them, no sickly sweet memes about love and loyalty that had been used to triangulate Em in the early stages following Michael's rejection of her. They were all gone. "Ooh, there must be trouble in paradise," remarked Em to herself as she continued to work her way through Michael's social media offerings. With each click, she felt happier to see that there was no sign of Dawn Grade. With each scroll through the pictures, the absence of Dawn Grade caused Em to feel a strange kind of elation at her disappearance. I wonder what happened to her. I guess he got bored of her. Well, I can't blame him. I mean, she was a real mess. Goodness knows what he saw in her. The journey through the social media that Michael kept up to date and fresh contained no trace whatsoever of Dawn Grade. With her curiosity piqued, Em reached for her phone and then found the entry for Michael, because she had never deleted his number. "I will just say hello and wish him happy Halloween. No harm in just doing that," she said to herself. As she typed in the text message, she failed to hear the sound of the fourth slice. She sent the text to Michael. 2 minutes later, her phone chimed, and there it was on the lock screen. Michelangelo, the nickname she coined for him and never altered from her address book. She felt a surge of anticipation as she grabbed her phone and opened the message. "Hi, Em. Great to hear from you. Happy Halloween. How are you?" She read the message and then read it again before smiling. "It must be fate," she declared, "for this to happen a year to the day." With nervous excitement she replied, and for the next 30 minutes the text flashed back and forth, all pleasant, all polite, some even humorous. Her Michael the mirth-maker, had returned. She was in the middle of writing a further message to him when the screen suddenly changed and showed that Michael was calling her. She hesitated. They had not spoken in months. Should she speak to him? She wondered if it was a good idea, but then she swiped across to take the call, as she wanted to hear his voice again, to hear his laugh, and besides, she had so many questions. "Hello," she announced. "Hi, Em," came that familiar voice. "I thought I would call you. Far easier than keep texting," he explained. "Oh, sure, of course, no problem," she replied. They were soon in the saddle of familiar conversation, the polite formalities dispensed with, and instead they spoke with one another, as they had done in the wonderful beginning of their relationship. Michael offered his apologies for the way he had treated Em. He said that he had had a moment of madness, that he would never forgive himself for the way that he had treated her, that she did not deserve it, and he did not know what had come over him when choosing Dawn Grade. He explained that she was a lunatic, an obsessive crazy woman who had told lies about Em, and he foolishly had believed them. But after a while he realized that they could not be true, but he was too afraid to contact Em and apologize, since she was no doubt still angry with him. Em said she had been angry with him for what he had done, and he had hurt her so badly, but she forgave him because she realized how sorry he was. She explained how she felt, and he responded affirmatively with the "I understands" and and "makes sense." She recounted her pain, her tears, and her anger. She told him about she sat listening to Ed Sheeran over and over again, how Adele became the soundtrack of the last few months, and that no, there was nobody else now, and no, she was not dating. He listened and said all of the right things. He was back. Her Michael was back. They spoke for just over an hour. Em, oblivious to the dark world outside, ensconced in her bedroom, as she listened to Michael apologize, and as he took her back to those magical memories once again. "Em," said Michael, "I think it's only right that I come and apologize in person so you can truly see how sorry I am for what I've done. Are you doing anything now?" No, I'm not," she replied. Should she let him come over? It would be wonderful to see him, but he had hurt her so very, very much. "I'm not sure, though, if you should. You did break my heart," she offered. I know. That's why I need to say sorry to your face. I only want 10 minutes, and then I'll leave. Promise." 10 minutes? 10 minutes. "Okay, then. See you in, say, half an hour?" "Great. See you then," confirmed Michael. Em felt that familiar soaring in her heart. He was coming to see her. The return of her king after his crusade in unfamiliar lands. She jumped off the bed and raced into the living room, frantically tidying up. The chocolate bar wrappers were flung into the bin. She paused the television and then switched it off so that the paused film, P.S. I Love You, was no longer showing, and she hid the large box of Kleenex tissues away in a cupboard. She arranged the cushions, made sure the dishwasher was stacked with the crockery which had lain on the kitchen counter, and lit some candles. There was no time for a shower, but there was time to change, to put on the makeup and dab on some fragrance. As she applied her eyeliner, she smiled at herself and saw her old self for the first time in months. It was wonderful. It would only be 10 minutes, but she wanted him to see what he had foolishly cast aside. Let him see what a fool he had been. She pressed play on her phone, so the speakers in the house began to play. She smiled again. As the first strains of Sia began to play, Emma felt her insides tingle with excitement, and thus she failed to hear the fifth slice cut through the air. Emma opened the door. There he was, Michael. He stood on the doorstep with a bottle of wine in his hand, hair still slightly damp from his express shower, and that wide grin across his face. That adorable grin on that adorable face. "Hello, you," he declared, as the door opened and the warm light of Emma's house bled into the dark night outside. "Hello, you," she replied and laughed. "Do come in," she invited. I think your cat has caught something," remarked Michael, as he stood over Thrudgo, who was toying with a mouse on the doorstep. The cat paused a moment, giving Michael a baleful look with his yellow eyes, as Michael entered the house. "What? Oh, yes, he does that," replied Em, not really registering what she had been told, as she stared up at Michael as he entered the house. The door closed behind them, as in the moonlight, outside, Thrudgo pounded with both paws, pinning the mouse down and sinking his teeth around it, finishing it off. This was a cautionary tale about how emotional thinking, salami slices, to cause you to be drawn back into the grasp of the narcissist. I trust that you identified the various stages and arenas of interaction that Em entered into. And did you pick up on how her emotional thinking was being fed by certain activities, causing her to use flawed logic? Did you notice the instances where it made her feel a particular way, so she continued to interact with the narcissist? If not, listen again and pick those out, as it's important for you to listen to, albeit a fictional scenario, to see how it is applicable, and also work out who Thrudgo is. No doubt you enjoyed listening to this, and this is one of many tales that you can find in the two audiobooks, Narc Tales Volume 1 and Volume 2. If you would like to listen to more entertaining and amusing aspects of narcissist empaths and the narcissistic dynamic, whilst at the same time learning a lot about narcissism, there's no better way than to indulge in the two audiobooks. Use the links that you'll find in the description to the video, and you'll be taken to the Knowledge Vault where you can obtain this material. It's a wealth of information, entertainingly told by me, in a variety of familiar and not familiar tales, which will make you think and also entertain you. But most importantly of all, they will educate you. Do embrace this information to protect yourselves. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.